Okay. Let's see what we got here. Well, well. Oh, there we go. Da, 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 da.
Hey, John.
All right, let's see if I get this. Hold on. Built in, same. Let's see this. Is this working?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I didn't know if trying to remember how to. I haven't used this for a while to mute the. Where is it? Switch to. I don't know. Test.
Here's the test.
Where's the thing to mute the? What is it? I can't talk. Where it mutes it unless you hit the space button.
It's down at the lower left-hand corner.
Same as system. Same. Maybe it's under audio settings. I don't know. Built-in test speaker. I'm switched. I don't know. Up. I don't know. Oh, there we go. Okay, I got it figured out.
This is for the program, right?
Yeah.
Well,
There are 8 participants currently.
that's cool. Okay, good.
Can you hear us, gentlemen?
I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, I can hear you.
Well, we're working technical technical things for the presentation. Why don't we go ahead and introduce ourselves? We'll start with the room and then we'll go to the call, and I guess I'll let you guys work out.
I'm Gordon, KB5, SDX. Go ahead, Joe.
I'm Joe, K9OPL.
I'm Noel, and I'm CJT.
Mike, WE9MI.
And that's it.
And that's it for the room.
Oops, where'd he go?
I don't know, I'm gonna awesome.
Didn't work, but now we've got the computer and the
Screen share.
Not hearing them anymore.
Do we still have audio?
Yeah, you still have audio. All we see is just Mike's name, though.
Yeah.
For
Do you have audio on? Visual on your side?
in-room speaker on?
never mind.
That's Bruce, right?
Yeah.
We're also on the call.
Oh, there we go.
So I
Okay, I got
got
mine
John,
set up right.
Bruce, we've said K3LR.
10, that's Tim.
Okay.
Tim.
Yeah.
Okay, you're about to
Randall,
do some
Rueff.
connections because I'm going to switch it over to this one. You have your USB as well.
Or do you want to just leave the audio on this and just do video on yours? And then, sorry, K9ENO.
Stewart.
Stewart.
Okay. Hope you're feeling not too bad, Stuart.
No, so far it's pretty mild.
Good.
Gotta say, Tim's got a pretty impressive wall behind him.
Program we're going to present, is that what we're doing?
Yeah. Tim should be on.
How are we planning to do that over fall?
Well, so as soon as
This will work as soon as they get it working.
Tim can present to Zoom,
Oh, Tim's
and
Yeah, and
then
make him a presenter just as soon as we're ready.
we're gonna lose audio for just a minute.
Okay. Tim, you're probably used to this right now, aren't you? All the fun with Zoom.
I spend my life on Zoom.
I know, me too.
Okay, we're getting closer. We got video screen that everybody can see, and so just my laptop.
It was good. Tim's got a pretty impressive wall behind him. I was noticing that. Obviously, a lot more into it than I probably will ever be. It's very impressive.
Thank you. It's not a green screen. It's the real deal.
Presents a lot of hard work and long hours.
I don't doubt that.
35 years worth of work down here, and that's just two of. There's 11 total here stations.
Wow. Okay, I've got this thing on the side of my screen. It says something about who can see your messages to everyone. Is that text or I don't know? I hadn't tried it, so I didn't know.
Yeah, that's just the way you can chat.
Chat room.
Okay.
Chat room.
I'm gonna try one. Just see what happens.
Yeah, it popped up.
Okay.
What's the alpha on the left there?
It's the Alpha 77DX.
Okay.
Single 8877.
Okay, nice.
We use it exclusively on 80 meters.
Okay.
So who are we waiting for?
I think we're waiting for the group that's meeting at the church to have everything up and running.
Okay.
We're trying to present it on a large screen, I think, so everybody can see.
Oh, okay.
That's usually a pain.
Yeah, unless you're directly wired in.
Yep.
This is now in. Can you hear us, gentlemen?
Well, I see Joe. Yeah, there's everybody.
There's Joe.
Here's me.
All right. You're on the big screen, Joe.
Oh, heavens forbid. It's probably gonna blow up now.
Does it actually sense who's talking and point the
Yes,
camera?
it's
at?
supposed to.
Yeah.
Okay, Tim, it's all yours. Sorry for the delay.
Okay. I'll make you, Tim, I'm gonna make you a presenter here.
Okay.
Okay. You should be able to do what you need to do.
All right.
Do like a panoramic all the way around.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
Let me know when you see my screen.
Yeah, it's on there.
All right. So good evening, everyone, and thanks very much for inviting me to present here this evening. This is a talk about grounding and bonding, and we're going to talk about AC safety, lightning protection, RF and audio, and I'm going to show you some things you can do to instantly get better performance out of your station. These are great reference materials. The ARRL handbook is very good on this subject. Also, the antenna book. The real Bible is the grounding and bonding for the radio amateur. There's also online resources such as the Motorola R56 standards and guidelines. And there's also material available at K9YC.com as well. And there's ground is a misunderstood dilemma for a lot of people because it can be lots of things to lots of different situations. And there is no such thing as RF ground. And but single point ground is very important. And remember that the earth is not a magic sink into which you can just pour the stuff you don't want. And bonding is what we're really going to focus on here tonight. And the bonding is intended to keep 2 or more points at the same voltage. It's not expensive, it's not hard, and it does work in your favor for AC safety, lightning protection, and RF management. And for bonding to work properly, it has to be low impedance. The lengths have to be short at the frequencies of interest, and heavy enough to carry the expected current, sturdy enough to survive the environment when you're outside. And you cannot use braid from old coax. Because it is exposed copper, it will deteriorate very quickly. So you cannot use braid of any sort outside. Even the tin copper braid is not recommended for outdoor use. You want to use flat strap or heavy wire in outside environments. Make sure that you always put safety first, and it's very important that your AC main panel be grounded. And if you're not sure what to do, hire a professional electrician. And remember that AC safety grounding has several names: equipment ground, third wire ground, green wire ground. Its purpose is twofold. It provides a path for AC common point faults. It also stabilizes the AC power voltage during faults or transients such as lightning. And here's how it's wired together. You have a utility transformer outside, the center tap, which goes to a ground rod. There are 3 conductors that come into your house. There is the neutral and the 2 hots. That's 240 volts across the hots. And then that neutral has its own bus. Then there's a ground bus. And then that ground bus is connected to a ground rod outside and also to the case of the breaker panel. And then there is a main bonding jumper between the neutral and the ground. That only occurs at the main panel. If you have sub panels, you must remove that main bonding jumper. The ground and the neutral are only brought together at the main breaker box. And for AC safety grounding, you can use these acorn clamps. I like to use in the middle, that's actually CAD weld. That's where you exothermically weld onto the top of the ground rod. And that's number 2 wire that is done. CAD weld 1-shots are available at DX Engineering. And you bond all of the ground rods together so that and everything is bonded outside of the house. You want to make sure that you try to help lightning make good decisions. The path should be outside your residence. Don't make it easy for lightning to go in. Notice here, there's no ground rod at the tower. That's a problem. And there's also, you have to be very careful about your AC service entry ground. You do not want to have a situation like that. So here is the right way to do it. Ground rods to the tower, also to the entry point going into the house, and then multiple rods for the AC service entry so that everything is outside the house. And here's the proper way to do tower grounding with multiple ground rods and radials. And you want to bond your feed lines to the tower and single point ground. If you don't leave it here tonight with anything other than this is so important, the single point ground panel. Notice the RF ground plane underneath the radio equipment. That's very important too. So the radio actually hooks to the RF ground plane. The ground plane then hooks to the single point ground panel where everything is connected. And lightning protection is important. Polyphaser and also protecting your control lines. Here you can see single point ground panel with the lightning protectors on the coax. And then you see the aluminum plate here and a connection to a ground rod right away. And you can see here the little blue gas discharge tubes right off of the control wires. Single point ground panel. Another single point ground panel with all of the filters and everything that is needed to be on ground mounted on an aluminum plate. And so you want to make sure that you bond all the equipment within the station. It must have a common connection. And inside the shack, you can use copper pipe. You can use strap to go from each component of the radio station. And then this connects to the single point ground panel. Remember that everything in your station is an antenna, and you want to make sure that you connect them properly and bond them properly. So we're concentrating on bonding. And when we do that, that equalizes voltage to minimize the current, eliminates hot spots, minimizes audio buzz, reduces RFI. You want to keep your cables short and use that bonding bus. Keep the cables together. Here's the RF ground plane underneath the radio, and everything is connected to the bonding bus. And remember that all currents flow on all wires, so a single solid ground system of short, heavy, direct connections satisfies all of the requirements for AC safety, lightning protection, and RF management. Here again, all the ham radio equipment connected to the RF bonding bus. That connects to the single point ground panel, which has all the connections for everything that's going on in the house. Then we go to the AC power panel. All of the ground rods outside are all connected together. Perimeter ground connected to the single point ground panel. You see the AC service ground. So more resources can be found online, and so they're free. National Fire Protection has some. Polyphaser has some. The Lightning Protection Institute has some. FAA, the IEEE, and also you can find just a whole lot of great recommended practices for grounding electronic equipment. There's also the ARRL has a lot of great sections on electrical safety and grounding and lightning protection. And WHAI has a lot to say about grounding. So remember this photo here, getting those RF ground planes, and here are some ground planes at K9RMR, and getting ready to put the radios on top. These are my single point ground panels. I've got one for each station set up. That 2-inch copper strap goes down and connects onto the ground rod system, which is number 2 copper, which runs in between each ground rod underneath the radio equipment, and that's silver soldered onto the 2-inch copper strap. And then there are very wide tin copper braids. These are 1-inch wide. Each one goes to an amplifier or to the radio. And then also there's an additional ground connection there for the antenna switch. Here's the RF ground plane connection on the right. It's connecting to the single point ground panel. On the left, it's getting ready for the radio. So it's just connected like this. And now you put your radio on top of the ground plane, and here's 2 ground planes. Another shot of the single point ground panel. I use brass hardware because that is the most conductive hardware you can use with external tooth lock washers. So here's the back end of the radio. You can see the 1-inch wide tin copper braid connected onto the ICOM radio, which connects onto the RF ground plane. Connection from the amplifier to the RF ground plane. RF ground plane to the single point ground panel. Another connection to an amplifier. Another one to an amplifier here on the ground stud of the amplifier going down to the single point ground plane. And that is my presentation, and I am available for any questions you might have.
So that's how you have everything set up behind you.
Yeah, this is the real deal back here.
Looks like I need to put my shack on the other side of the house. all my power comes in one side and the shack's on the other.
Yeah, mine's on the second story, so. Tim, what about portable operation as far as grounding and stuff? Do you have any information there?
Yeah, I think it is still best practice to put a ground rod in, even though you're portable, for safety reasons. Your equipment will work just fine without the ground, but from a safety standpoint, because you're playing with the voltages and power, it's always good to have a safety ground, and then bond all the equipment together and then connect it onto that ground rod.
In Mike's case, where he's got all his equipment on one side of the house, would that be put a ground rod outside on that side of the house and then bond it to the outside to the other?
Yes. You would then take a number 2 tin solid copper wire from that ground rod, the station ground rod, around to the ground rod that you have for the main breaker panel.
In this case, it's easier to move the shack or move the radio equipment inside the house. That would be.
Otherwise, you end up with the difference in potential.
Yeah.
And if you get a nearby lightning event, it's going to wreak havoc. Unless everything is at the same voltage potential.
Yep.
Any other questions?
I'll make one suggestion. Having been an electrical engineer for 45 years, exothermically weld your ground rods. Don't mess with football clamps and all that rigmarole if you're serious about it, because they will develop a high ohm connection in basically very short amount of time.
CAD weld is my absolute favorite.
Yep. Works a charm, and they're not expensive, and you can get the forms and Amazon, every place else sells it, and I know you guys at DX do too. So
Yep, we've got them.
Well worth investment.
Other questions?
I'm here.
Very informative. Thank you.
So is this a presentation something that we could get an email with the presentation in it?
If you go onto YouTube under, and just Google or put in the search box K9RMR grounding,
Okay.
there's about 25 YouTubes
That's,
that
okay.
is this same slide deck.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay, I got one. I guess my question would be for a single radio. Obviously, you've got a lot more than one radio, but I mean, just for the single radio, as far as installation time and cost, on a minimalist minimalist budget, what can we get away with?
There's no free lunch here.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah, here's the thing. Even with one radio, all just that slide that shows all the components of your radio station, whether radio, tuner, amplifier, coax switch, everything should have a ground connection to it, to a single bonding bus, and then that should go off to the ground rod.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Can you show that slide of the tower grounding situation again with at least 3 ground rods?
Yeah, so those are 30-foot radials, and there are 3 ground rods equally spaced on that 30-foot radial, and then there's a ring around the tower.
Okay, so there's a total of 9 ground rods then on the tower
Yes.
itself.
Yes.
How deep? 5 foot, 8 foot?
I like 8-footers, but if 4 foot is what you can get, that's good too.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Okay, I got another one. Where I live, we have a very high water table. I mean, if I go out in my backyard and dig 4 foot, I'm hitting water. So what would you say as far as that?
Same thing, 8-foot ground rod.
Okay.
Didn't matter.
It'd be easy to drive, right?
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. It'd be easier to get in the ground.
Any other questions, guys?
I think you've covered it. Thank you, Tim. I really appreciate your doing this.
Yep. And if you can make me the host, that would be great before you.
Okay, I'll do that. And here's the grounding and bonding book. In fact, I just got QST yesterday, and in QST, there's a second edition of this book that'll be available next week. So this book by Ward Silver is just fabulous. The old book is good. The new book is probably even better. All right, so let's see what we can do here. I believe that, yeah, I'll do that. So to those of you who are DX Engineering customers, thank you so much for your business. I hope we've taken care of your needs. You have my email address. If anything goes wrong, you can always reach out to me. And if you're not a DX Engineering customer, give us a try. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised how well it goes, how fast we ship, and how knowledgeable the sales team is. We have over 400 years of experience on our sales team, and they're really a super bunch of people that really do care about getting you the stuff you want. So thanks again for inviting me tonight, and I hope to hear you on the air. 73.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yeah. 73.
Who wants to be the host?
Bruce.
All right, Bruce, you're it.
Hey, thanks, Tim. Appreciate it. Well, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
This slide deck wasn't really keeping up with where he was at, but on my end anyway. So.
All right, so that was the September program. I think Stuart was on. If he's feeling up to it, we want to. Is there anything you want to say about the minutes?
Minutes are posted out to everybody to read. So
Entertain a motion to accept. Joel moves. Mike seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I didn't hear any opposed. Say. All right, we accept the August minutes as written. Financial report, I got something from Don, but I thought I saw Don on, so Don wants to give the report, feel free. Thought I saw him, he might be mute. See him anymore. Okay, so the report was, the cash box now has $0. I think it started with zero, currently has zero. And the checking account went up $15 from 9,406 to 9,415.06 due to some dues getting paid, and there hasn't been much activity. So I will entertain a motion to accept that.
So moved.
Mike moves. Second. Seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, financial report is done. All right, 2-meter report. As far as I can tell, it is functioning. I have not heard any reports of malfunction or problem, and the weather has cooled off a bit this week, so I'm hoping that we got through the summer. So with D-Star status, the minute said something about this. Last meeting, we said we were trying to get a hold of Crown Castle. We suggested that we might just ask next to go out there anyway. I suggested that we do that, but they said for legal reasons they wouldn't, since they have their name on the equipment and whatnot. But I did hear back from Crown Castle, and they don't have a record of us being at the tower. That's not a surprise, given what I've heard over the last 10 years. So we're now on a mission to find records for that tower, whatever we can find. I've been told that we've been out there since Paul Kastner put up the tower. Is that correct? Or just did he buy that tower?
Worked out there.
Yeah, Paul had multiple repeaters there years ago when he had the commercial, when he had the Motorola business here in Columbus. So,
And
So has our 2-meter repeater been out there since then?
yes, yep. Before that, it was on the WCSI tower on Car Hill Road.
okay, so if anyone in the club knows of any contract we might have had with Paul's company or with Pinnacle, or maybe Crown did something like this, that'd be helpful. I have a binder full of papers that I still need to go through, but I have been on a 50-hour-a-week schedule for about a month now, and that's going to continue for 2 more months. And if anyone would like to look through that binder, I'd be happy to let you borrow it.
You might want to talk to Gary. He might have a little insight into that, but I think we've pretty much always tried to fly under the radar, so to speak. So,
Okay, well,
which probably is not a good thing, but it was then. So,
legally a rough thing, and it just means that the club, we were always at risk of someone saying, "What's this doing here?" and getting rid of it.
Yep.
Yeah, at least that didn't happen. But yeah, they have Crown Castle suggested that if we can't find their documentation, they might put us through their sales team to see what they can squeeze us for. But we'll see what comes of that. They haven't been too pushy about getting documentation. I made it clear we've been there for about 40 years, so I think they want to hurry this up in a month.
My guess is they're probably not gonna push it as long as we don't push the internet.
Well, so I think the reason they got back to us is because they thought I was asking them to provide internet service as a potential new customer, because they had no record of the club being there.
Yeah.
And so they had reached out to Internet to work out activity directly. And that's when, was it Jason? Yeah, Jason mentioned that we were trying to get unlimited net connectivity out there. So I think it was a bunch of confusion, but eventually, the rep out there, Sarb, I believe, reached out to me. Documentation. So.
There's not a lot of people left on that tower, so
I think the FBI is the only remaining customer.
that may be it. The building I haven't been there for 3 or 4 years, but last time I was there, the building adjacent to used to be full and it's empty. It was empty then, so
Oh,
It's
gone.
gone. Yeah.
And the building we're in is nothing to write home about.
no, it never was, Joe.
No, but I'm saying if they were gonna try to start charging us for it, I would say, hey, if you're gonna charge us, you gotta clean it up.
Get some air conditioning and get the mice out. Right. Yep.
And the birds.
And birds, yeah. Does anyone know? Does anyone know what a site like that might be worth? With the tower that tall?
I have no clue.
Whatever the market will bear.
What does anyone know what the market would bear?
That I couldn't tell you.
I mean, I'm wondering, is it a $50,000 thing or $200,000 thing?
You talking about the tower in Edinburgh?
The tower
The tower's probably actually, if they had to tear it down, would be a liability. It would cost them more to take it down than what they're getting out of whoever renting it to the FBI right now. That's not a cheap thing to take a tower down.
Yeah.
No, I mean the site. What's the site worth? If
For a repeater you're talking about? Like if you wanted to pay for the repeater there?
No, if you were actually a person that was investing and you were buying the site, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I have no idea.
I don't either. I don't know anything about the cost.
Well, anyway, so that's an aside. I guess so. Jason Kennedy of Unlimited Net does know some tower owners in the area, and he suggested that he could introduce us to some of them, especially those that are closest to the 2-meter site. And I thought it would be a good idea if we could get a small team to start meeting those people and building a relationship with the club, so that, because we don't know which way it's going to go with Crown Castle. Honestly, I'd be surprised if they went to the trouble of pulling us down because we wouldn't tell. Anyway.
I had a question. My question is the actual antenna that they're using for. I mean, is there some way that like some other businesses or like I know I've seen other business around Columbus that have towers or have antennas on top of buildings. I mean, would that be a possibility that we could find somebody that's got a tall building or already has a tower or I mean what I'm saying?
Well, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Maybe
we want to find those people, meet them, and
not going to be a building. I mean, the tower is what, 275 foot up?
I think that's where our antenna is. I don't know how tall the tower is. It could be quite a bit tall.
Oh, okay.
Okay, my question was not the tower, but the actual antenna itself. How big is the actual antenna?
It's just a coaxial antenna, so it's probably 6 foot tall.
It's
Okay.
just how-
I was there when we put the antenna up and we actually got the 75 ohm feed line from that was donated by Comcast back then that we drug up the tower and attached to it. So anyway.
I mean, okay. My thought was, I mean, if it's only about 6 foot tall, the antenna itself is only about 6 foot. I wouldn't think. I mean, if we could find somebody that was willing to put it on top of their building, or what I'm saying, or already had something. I mean,
we're not going to go up and take it down. We're going to abandon it in place.
Exactly.
No.
Yep.
As far as just putting it up, the whole idea is it's got to be high. That's why it's where it is.
Call cell wave, order a new antenna. Get it cut for the frequencies you want.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
It's a very simple antenna.
Yep.
We would probably take the repeater with us, but
Yeah.
No, the repeater will take it. That's,
But we should.
midnight requisition, it'll come.
like what you think.
Anyway, yeah, so we should, I think it'd be a good idea if, some people started reaching out to local tower owners to find out, if they'd be willing to, help the club, with, potential repeater, even if we don't end up moving the 2 meter, it opens new options up to us. If there are, friendly tower owners, so. I will not be able to lead that, working a 50-hour schedule, but, if anyone else would like to volunteer. I'd be
Well,
happy to.
we got a 440 repeater on a tower. Maybe we can put the 2 meter repeater on that as well. So
We had thought about that, so that's an option if the 2 meter
Right.
does go.
The only disadvantage of that is having all your repeaters in one spot, but that is a very good site. I don't know how much more they would charge us to put another repeater there. I could talk to Chuck about that if that.
might
comes.
have to mow it 4 times a year, maybe.
But Chuck has been really good. He's a good guy. I mean,
Yeah, Chuck's a good guy. Yeah.
we haven't had any trouble. One time when he thought we were doing something and I got with him and I said, no, that wasn't us. He said, okay, I know who it was. Sorry I said anything. He says, I just didn't know that those other guys were that stupid.
We thought we
Yeah,
were.
the ham radio guy, sure, but you're not.
But no, he made it clear that he went back to his leadership because they thought we were doing something. Somebody had cut the gate because they couldn't get in. And I said, no, we got keys, Chuck, and we always use them. And he said, well, I knew you always had, but anyway, we set that straight. That was a couple of years ago, and I thought it was going to get kind of bad, but he believed me. And they found out who it was, and he said, yeah, I know who it was.
Does Chuck have any other towers?
I think they have the one where the North Vernon is using
Yeah.
one of them.
Yeah, that's
It's another White River.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same arrangement we had, which was mowing.
Does he have any other towers that we want?
Well, the other thing is, I mean, you could, if we did put it up there, you could diplex that and, basically use 1 feed line and 2 antennas and use diplexers on that. So that's an option too. So
would a dual band antenna not work?
yeah, that's what I mean, Noel. Use a dual band antenna and then use a diplexer. Yeah.
That you keep your repeaters isolated, right?
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean that's certainly doable. And like I said, in terms of environment, I don't know if any of you who have been out there, fantastic environment out there. But
In fact, they've got a lot of stuff out there. I don't know. Last time I was out there, I don't know if they had room for the cabinet.
Have to stack it up a little bit.
yeah,
All right. So I guess Noah suggested he would, speaking with the tower owners.
I will get with Jason and follow his lead.
It'd be nice if someone else could join you, so it's a team
Yeah.
effort.
I would be willing to try to do what I could, but my schedule is horrible too,
Yeah. You're a busy guy.
unfortunately, sometimes.
Not
I'm
to
the same.
volunteer, but go ahead, Mike.
As I say, I'm in the same boat where my time is thin, but I'd be happy to help as
Okay.
part-time is needed.
I mean, the thing you'll find with most of the towers, they're probably owned by somebody you have no idea who they are, even though they're on somebody's property. Because most of the towers are not owned by the people that own the property. They're owned by a tower company. That's their business, is leasing space on the tower. So just throwing that out. I mean, I'm not trying to throw cold water on anybody, but when you run into that, don't be surprised. So
In fact, my wife was telling me she was doing some reading and found out that Crown Castle does a whole bunch of laying of um, what you call it, fiber.
They do fiber optic. Yeah. Yep.
So they're into a couple of different things.
So who's a good licensed bonded tower guy? Ken, do you have any idea?
What do you mean, Noel? I don't understand your question. Excuse me.
Climber.
Oh, a climber?
Yeah.
Have no idea. No idea.
Need some of them too.
Oh well, yeah.
All right. Well, we can leave the 2 meter at that. I'll be hopefully looking through documents. Well, I want to, but I'll be looking through documents in the next week probably.
Unfortunately, I know anything electronic doesn't go far enough back. I looked at everything I had, but my stuff only goes back to about 2002, and I didn't see anything.
Well, thank you. Is there so how about 440 then? Is that wrong?
It's pretty quiet. I get on it every once in a while.
I've been out there a few times. It's
For a while I was fully expecting Dale to start playing with it because he for a while decided he was going to get on 2 meters again, but he's been quiet lately. So, I haven't heard any disruption on either repeater lately. It doesn't mean there haven't been any, but I haven't heard any. And I do, I try at least once a month to remotely turn the repeater, the 440 on and off, just to make sure that I've still got that working.
I've heard one person on the 440 in the past 2 months, and that was me. I called you tonight, Joe. You didn't answer.
Oh, well, you missed me. I missed you. No, I don't get on it that often, but I try to get on some. I know I'm supposed to monitor it. I can't monitor it all the time. Just don't have the ability to do that.
So then moving on from 440 report, Hamfest for 2022. Noel and Bruce. I don't think that Hamfest Bruce is on, but is there any update on?
Is W2BBI hooked in tonight?
I didn't see.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not seeing him here either. Matt has provided some information. We have currently the step-by-step what to do and a copy of the 2018 Hamfest flyer, which can easily be altered. What we don't have, and I've requested from Matt, is a list of vendors, a list of who does things like prints the flyers, handles the mailing out the flyers, that sort of thing, contact information, addresses, and he's promised to have that by the end of next week to us. So that's the current status.
Any questions or concerns with Hamfest?
Do you have the reservation and a deposit for it?
Yes. Yeah, that's all handled.
When is it?
April 2nd of 2022.
Thank you.
At least it's not April Fool's Day.
You gonna come visit, Jim?
I'll be there.
Hey,
All right.
All right.
Okay, so that's all I have for typical business, club business. Is there anything else we should be discussing? Any old business on this? Anything new that we should be discussing tonight?
I have one announcement that might reach more people than did on the net the other night, all 3 people on the net.
Go ahead.
I'm starting a net. I call it simply the Simplex Fellowship Net. It's going to be on 146.430 Simplex. It takes place at 7:30 p.m. each Friday evening, and the first meeting is tomorrow evening. I'll be operating at 1 watt output power and listening with a preamp in the line. So if you can hear me, I can probably hear you, even if you're on a handy-talkie at 5 watts.
How's your antenna?
50 feet. So it should cover the general Columbus and Bartholomew County area to some extent. If 1 watt doesn't get far enough out, then I might increase it to 2.5 or 5 or 65 or whatever it takes. I can hit 100 watts, but
65.
Is that FM? Or
that's FM.
Yeah.
Now, that's a good question, Ken. Thank you. I would also like to experiment with doing sideband, but I have only a vertical antenna. And there aren't too many sideband operators around, so I think generally we're going to stick to FM.
I don't have sideband on VHF or UHF.
But the idea behind the net is to just get people in the habit of being able to be in touch with each other without a repeater. Yeah. So that if Crown Castle pulls the plug, or the New Madrid fault cuts loose, or we have a volcano arise in Lester Bierman's field,
a sunstorm,
we still have the ability to communicate with each other, and we know how to do it, and we're practiced in it. And that's really the main reason I'm putting this together, although I would like to be in touch with more folks than are currently participating in our local nets. And this will be the only Simplex net closer than Bloomington.
You said that's going to be Friday at 6:30 on 146.3?
It's 7:30.
Oh, 7.
146.3.
146.430 Simplex.
430. Okay.
That's also the Aries frequency, right?
That is correct. And I probably will catch some flack from the emergency coordinator for using that frequency without his permission, but I figured since it is the ARES frequency, and since that could be very useful if we have that set up, then it's a good thing to do.
He'll get over it.
life's rough everywhere. Yeah.
It's also ham radio, and there are no reserve
He'll
frequencies.
get over it. I won't go on
No, the Terre Haute Club does Simplex on their net once a week. Oh, I'm sorry, once a month. I think it's the first Sunday evening is off the repeater. It's a Simplex net.
Yeah. I think that's how Bloomington runs theirs as well.
Well, one of these nights, I may try to pull a surprise as normally being the net control and cause the repeater to go down. But then we'll have to have a plan for people to know where to go. Frequency.
Well, you can tell them where to go.
I do that all the time on the interstate.
They don't change their ways, right?
But that's not a bad idea, actually. But that'll be good, Noel. I hope I remember it. Well, I probably ought to just set myself an alarm.
Okay.
So I don't forget it.
Actually, that might be a good idea. To start off the net by doing that, and let everybody know that that's what we're going to do. To get everybody familiar with actually doing it. So if something does happen, people will know what to do.
Because one of the things that people don't seem to know how to do is to move frequency fast enough. You got to get used to it on your radio and just have these frequencies programmed in. I went through about a month ago and found out that half of my repeater frequencies were right, and either the tones changed since I put them in or I had them in wrong in the first place. I can access a lot more repeaters now than I could.
Okay.
I found that after I watched the YouTube channel on how to program my radio. All right.
I know how to program my radios, but it's just getting it right.
It's knowing what.
I pre-programmed my mobile radio in my truck when I went on vacation between here and Utah, and I had over 300 stations, and I didn't hear anyone until I got to Utah. Salt Lake City Valley. Then I started hearing people, but it ran the whole way, just kept scanning.
I've driven from here to Denver with 146.52 simplex on and never heard a thing.
Yeah.
Oh. Anyway,
You gotta make a call. If you don't call, you don't get talked to.
every 50 miles I put out a call. Anyway.
Wow.
One more thing about the simplex net. Many of you are old enough or have lived around here long enough to remember Scotty, KB9WCQ.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And he used to run what he called the DJ net. I think he named it after his wife's initials. And it was more or less just a shoot the bull fellowship net, which I hope this succeeds as well as his did. But he was on a repeater, and this will be on simplex, so there is that difference.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
That's all I've.
Any other announcements or new business?
Another thing you could try is run the net with two control operators. Noel could be one. He could be the primary operator, and someone else could be listening for people who can't get on that and relaying it with the idea that you still have everybody participating, but they would give them the encouragement to go to the simplex net frequency.
That's something I hinted at when I put the announcement in the newsletter.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's where I got the idea. Who knows?
By the way, I just saw Don show up on here, so our treasurer is with us.
Not anymore.
Well, now I don't see him.
Yeah, they got rid of him real quick.
Came and went. He heard his name, he said, I'm gone.
Yep, he's out.
Okay. The things I'd like to explore are having everybody listen. And if net control or auxiliary net control doesn't hear a station, then somebody who does relays him in.
Yep.
And relays any comments he may have. And in that process, we learn who's got an antenna situation that doesn't work so well and can volunteer to assist with improving that situation. I don't think the club wants to go around buying people antennas, but the basic idea would be if someone needs some help walking across the roof to put an antenna up on a chimney or throw a 20-foot pole up or whatever it takes to get a person better coverage than what they would have with a handy-talkie or, in Don's case, the rubber duck in the bathtub. So anyway, that's it.
All right. If there's no other for new business, we can adjourn the meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Any opposed? No. All right. Thanks for calling in, guys. This is the best attended meeting we've had in a couple months.
Yeah, thanks Bruce for setting it up.
That's not a problem.
Good job.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Guess that's it.